Hi, Editing Avery here with a very quick note. We did experience some minor technical issues in this episode that resulted in a few small audio skips. You may also notice a couple of cuts where we needed to trim out some network problems. We really appreciate you sticking with us as we continue to improve these issues for future episodes, and we hope you enjoy this discussion. Hello! Welcome to And It's Writing, a podcast where two writers have a few drinks and revise some of our old work. And sometimes, like today, we will discuss writing related topics. I'm Avery. I write adult fantasy. And right now, what I'm working on is I am very much still stuck in revisions. Mini index cards and post-its have given their lives in the service of revising this week. We're very much in the weeds of revising.
The
The
weeds.
weeds. But we are making
The
progress.
weeds.
It's going very well. It's going very slowly. Um, and I guess I'll do the what I'm reading section. And this one comes with a little bit of an explanation. So, I needed a comfort read, and I'm going to explain what this book is, and you're going to go, how the hell is that a comfort read? And I got to tell you, it's called Land of the Beautiful Dead by R. Lee
Hmm.
Smith. DC has heard of this
Hmm.
book. It is a very long book. It's over 700 pages long. It is a horror romance that veers into, it dips a toe into erotica, and it's basically like in a zombie apocalypse, and the main character goes to like the king of the zombies and is like, hey, please stop destroying the world, and then he's like, we're gonna do a Beauty and the Beast sort of situation, now you're living here. It's really messed up, it's very dark, but it's also very sweet and very heartfelt. But the point I was gonna go with here is that we always try to talk about what we're reading is doing well, and the first time I read this book I was very angry at it because I started reading it for like funsies because I was like, oh, this sounds weird. What are we going to do? And then I ended up like bawling my eyes out, like horrifically destroyed by this book. And this time I'm reading it with a bit more of a critical eye and going, how did it do that? And I really, because it, you know, that analogy people like to use with the bumblebee where it's like it shouldn't fly, but it does? That's kind of how I felt about this book the first time. I'm like, why is this working? Because it's long, it goes on weird tangents. There's scenes that you're like, why are we doing this? But then you're like, but I'm in it. I'm reading it. And it's because it's doing goals. It's doing characters' goals and motivations very well. Every scene, I know what every character wants and how they're moving closer to that thing or farther away from that thing, and how those goals conflict. And that's actually causing a lot of tension, even in a scene that ostensibly doesn't have a lot of tension, because it's all under the surface. And so it's actually really interesting to study this like analysis of goals. But every time you tell people about it, they're like, it's like a zombie smutty book. And you're like, kind of, but also no, but also yes.
Zombies with penises.
It's a little less zombie and a little more like someone really, really had a thing for Imhotep from the Mummy movie.
Nice. Excellent. I can see why you might like it. So dirty. Uh, all right. Does that mean it's
That
my
means it's
turn?
your turn.
Also, well, I'm DC, and I am also in revision hell at the moment with
Woo!
a speculative fiction novel that is it's currently approaching 135,000 words, and I'm kind of hating myself for that. But we'll see where it goes and how my life ends at the end of this all. Uh, but it is what it is for now. And currently, okay, like I'm literally 10 pages away from finishing The Goldfinch, which I've been
So
reading for the last
close.
like month. It's really long, and I'm super excited to watch the movie tomorrow because I'm like, oh, I gotta get it done today because I want to watch this movie tomorrow. It's got all these hot actors in it, and I can't wait to watch the sparks fly. Apparently, it's a box office drag. I'm
I actually didn't
super
know there was
looking
a movie.
yeah, like came out like I think she must have sold the rights like the moment the book got sold because like it like the movie was there when the book was there. So it's like, oh, anyway, it's been a 760 page ride, and
That's slightly
I
longer
think,
than my zombie smut book.
yeah, like, and then I think because I love the way she paces so much, I'm gonna go ahead and read her debut novel next, which is the Secret
Hmm.
History, Donna Tartt. And I'm looking forward to seeing how she grew from where this book is to where she started, because this book is written beautifully, and I know that she apparently wrote beautifully before. So I'm curious to see that because it's been like, there's like a 20-year gap there. So we'll see. Uh, but yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay,
So yeah, today we're going to be discussing critique partners. Tangentially, that means we'll also be discussing betas a little bit, kind of the difference between the two, how they are similar, what they are, why you need them, and most importantly, where the heck do you find them? But first, the drinks. I'll do my drink because it's rapidly wilting. So I'm going to hold it up for the people who are actually viewing on the live stream so you can see how pretty it is. The whipped cream is, oh no! It's getting lost in my like green screen filter. It's like disappearing. Okay, well it's the disappearing pumpkin spice latte drink. Because I found most of my critique partners and beta readers through various NaNoWriMo related events, which is very fall thing. It's November, so it always makes me think of like fall weather and fall drinks. It is spiced rum, coffee liqueur, a custom pumpkin spice syrup that I made using pumpkin puree and pumpkin spice, and then just milk and whipped cream.
And I'm actually drinking the same thing today. Except for I made okay, it wasn't a critique, but it was a change because we're talking about critique partners today. So I needed to change a little bit of it. But in the spirit of being a critique partner, I kept the spirit of the drink because when you're somebody's critique partner, you don't want to change their story. You just want to help them make it better. I don't think mine's better in this case, the drink. Because I noticed you used rum and coffee liquor and pumpkin spice. So I'm like, that's every ingredient inside of Kahlua. Pumpkin spice Kahlua. So I went and I grabbed pumpkin spice Kahlua and used that instead.
That's actually probably, I mean, it's probably fine, and it's probably like a lot less work.
It's very good, and I want to drink it
Yeah,
all.
this one is also very drinkable. It's probably the most drinkable drink I've developed for this show,
It's
and so
it's
I'm going to
bad.
drink it very
It's
fast. This could be a very interesting show very
it's
quickly.
it's it's delicious, and I hate myself.
I feel a
Mm.
little better about mine. I did use almond milk in mine. Uh, most
Oh man, here I was trying to be like
Well, I
you.
mostly did it because I have almond milk that I need to use. So, anyways, okay, we'll get into the actual topic and stop talking about how good our pumpkin spice
Shut
lattes
up, they love it.
are. Pumpkin spice is very divisive, but I am extremely basic. I love it. Put it in everything. There's a pumpkin spice Pop Tart that's actually really good around fall. Uh,
But only around fall.
okay, so the first thing is breaking down like what is a critique partner, what is a beta reader, and how are they different. The definition is going to vary from person to person, so I'm kind of curious what your definition is.
The way I separate them might be a little bit different than the way other people separate them. My critique partners are sort of the people I sit around and cry a lot to during the process and swing them a sentence here or there, like I did with you today. They help me through the beginning stages of the first like 3 or 4 drafts because I'm a person who does not give my work to a beta reader until about draft 4. They help me through that process. Psychologically, they help me.
Okay, you might need to.
Can you
Yeah,
hear
you
me?
might need to
Okay.
repeat yourself. You said that psychologically they help you, and then I lost you.
Psychologically, they help me. Psychologically, they help me through all of my imposter syndrome and all of that.
Mhm.
And then, they help me with the little things here and there. The beta readers for me are the people who don't see the stuff behind the curtain. They are the people who look at my work and they tell me if it's working. If it's ready for query, if I need to make another, if I need to do another draft, which I usually do. Usually everybody does. That kind of stuff. Whereas the critique partner for me is somebody who is pretty much there with me through the entire process. Emotional support, editorial support, whatever I need.
Yeah, that actually jives a lot with what I think of because I do tend to think of critique partners as an ongoing relationship, and a little bit deeper relationship. Whereas, like a beta reader is what you said, is someone I send something to that is either mostly finished or I think it's finished. I inevitably find out it's not, but I think it's done at the time. And send them a really polished draft. They read it once, give me some feedback, call it a day. I do have repeat beta readers, but that's all they do. Whereas critique partners, like you said, you can send them a paragraph, you can bounce off ideas, you can come to them and go, oh my God, I just found a plot hole. Help. Um, so yeah, I do think it's just kind of like, and there's a little bit of a sliding scale, but yeah, I definitely think that it's mostly that beta readers kind of help at the end of the process and have a lower level of involvement in the process than critique partners do.
Yeah, I agree.
So, next question. Why are critique partners important?
I know they're important for me because without them, I'd be super freaking lonely, for one, and for two, and I don't know, like they are there to reaffirm that I am not a bad writer on the days where I have these paragraphs and I'm just like, I feel like I can't get through this. Help, helpo. And then like it's just that give and take. It feels like it kind of keeps me alive. It keeps me in the game, keeps me up to date. I think a lot of my critique partners, you and then top secret chat we're a part of, we get a lot of news from them, agent news. It helps kind of the socialization
Mm-hmm.
aspect as well as the critique aspect,
Yeah,
um, and keeps you informed.
I think it's definitely like a big psychological help in just even just like straight up knowing you're not alone. Like you can go into people and be like, I'm currying. I've just got my X number rejection, and just having your friends be like, "Me too." Um,
Yeah.
and it's also like, on the other side of that, it's nice to see your friends succeed, and it's just a nice sense of community to have people there who are also writers who are going through a lot of the same things. I have people who support my writing who are not writers. My husband is one of them, but sometimes you just want to be like, you want to complain about something that's very specific and you can't tell a non-writer about it. You have to be like, I can't figure out what this character's motivation is in this scene, and the non-writers are like, sorry. Whereas other people who are writers can kind of understand a little bit more, and it just helps emotionally and mentally with the whole process to have that support network. And that's what I think a lot of CPs, and I'm going to say CPs for critique partner a lot because that's just the vernacular I'm used to. So just know that's what I mean. Um,
Yeah.
but that's what they do a lot for me.
Also, I think it's a good point that you made that I think a lot of critique partners are often writers and beta readers don't
Hmm.
have to be writers. I think 90% of my beta readers do not
That is
write.
true.
Um, Yeah, they read a lot, and that makes them very helpful.
My hair's doing
And
things.
I suggest to anybody who doesn't have somebody reading their books who's not a writer to find some. Even if you have to tell your friends, your real life friends, that you've been writing a book, sometimes you should just admit it and ask your friends to read your fucking book. Like I don't know how many, like I don't know how people like hide this shit from their friends. I talk to so many people. They're like, "Oh, my friends don't know. Like, I'll never tell them." He 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 he. And I'm like, "What is wrong with you? Use that
Everybody knows
shit."
I'm writing, but they don't always know exactly what I'm writing.
But it's there to a point because it's like friends will tell you what you
Yeah,
want to hear.
that was going to be my next point.
So don't make them all friends.
Yeah, you want to give it
Like,
to friends that you know you can trust to be honest with you. If you give it to like a
yeah,
family member that you know is going to like try to cushion your feelings, then it's not going to help you any because like if you give it to your mom and you know your mom is one of those moms that's just like my precious baby can do no wrong, then you know that that person is going to be like not a good beta reader because they're just going to be like it's great even if they don't think so. But you can have friends who are readers but not writers who you know are going to be like, yeah, I liked it, but here's what I didn't like about it. And those people are really worth a lot because, like you said, readers approach things differently than writers do. And sometimes you just need to know that it's going to impact readers a certain way. And they're a little harder to find for me, the beta readers that are not writers. Um, but if you can find a good one, keep them. They never get to
yes.
leave.
Yeah, don't let them go. Even if you get imposter syndrome and quit writing for a year, stay in contact with your critique partners because you bitch, you're gonna be back. You're not you're not fucking fooling anybody. Like, get out of town. You're not fooling anyone. Yes,
Bribe
bribe
them
them.
with pumpkin
There's somebody in the
spice. Yes.
someone in the chat just said bribe them
That
with
is
pumpkin
actually one of the
spice.
people that I was going to bring up this other thing that critique partners do, and this particular person is very, very good at this, which is when you need to work out a plot problem and you know you need someone to talk to, but you figure out the problem halfway through telling them what it is, or the answer to the problem. We used to joke about this particular viewer. We would meet up at Starbucks in the before times and, and sit around, and I'd be like, okay, I've got a plot problem and I'm going to explain it to you in great detail. And you just need to sit there and go, uh huh. And halfway through, I'm going to figure out the solution. And inevitably that happens. I'd be like, okay, so character A is doing this, but if character A knows about B, then they can't do C. But then if they don't do C, then, oh, I've got it. I figured it out. And my friend's just like,
Yep,
go you. And it's very nice to
you
have
did
that
it.
support of somebody who will listen and just let you do that because honestly, it works so often just lining out your problems and verbalizing them to a person. Half the time you'll figure them out yourself.
Yep. Yep. Sometimes you just gotta say it out loud. And when you have no friends, you can talk to yourself.
I read a thing on, I think it was Tumblr. Probably it was Tumblr about how programmers do this with like a rubber duck and they like explain their code to the rubber duck and halfway through they'll figure out where the error in their code is. And so like you can tell the stuffed animal, you can tell your cat. But just like saying it out loud, like here is my problem. A lot of times your brain kind of goes, aha. And it's nice to have a person to do it too, but if you don't, there's other options. Like a rubber duck.
Exactly.
Um so we kind of talked about what makes a good critique partner is, we kind of already went over that, which was the next question. What is the process you follow when trying out a new critique partner? And I think this actually works better for like a beta reader, although it does do for swaps. Like if you're doing your
Look, man, I have a process for finding critique partners, and it's called being a gigantic, obnoxious person in chat and seeing which ones stick around because I know that if they can't stick around through my bullshit, then they're not worth my time. Like, I think within like the first week of me being in like a critique group chat, I've announced that I'm queer and all of my mental shortcomings and all of this and all of that. And I've basically told them literally everything. And I've probably used capital letters at least 50% of the time.
sworn
And
a few times,
the ones
use some curse
yeah,
words.
yeah. Oh, I swear a lot. I swear a lot. And that's a great one because if people don't like my swearing, and some people haven't, they leave. And I'm super happy about
Well, it's
it.
like if you weren't going to be a good fit anyway, then now is the time to know.
Yeah, like
And
if
then
you
sometimes you find people like me who you can't shake no matter what. And then you end
exactly,
up doing a podcast together.
you Yeah, you can't fake it with people because, like, that's part of making friends is being honest, and, like, why waste your fucking time with people who don't like who you are? Like, I'm gonna be straight about it, like, be yourself,
Mhm.
and, I know it's scary to be yourself in front of strangers, but you'll waste a lot less time, I think. But you don't wanna do that with beta
Yeah.
readers. You wanna be
Beta
professional.
readers are definitely beta readers are definitely more of like a business relationship. It's a little more of that professional, longer emails that are like, "Thank you for your time in agreeing to beta this book." Where CPs, it's like, "Here's my garbage, sucker." So it is definitely like just a casual versus more of a business relationship. Um, but yeah, there is actually a process for trying a new critique partner. I will kind of get into this a little bit later about what happens when this process goes very badly, or you forget to do this process, which is to swap a sample chapter. Do not give a new person your entire book if you have not like learned that you're good together, because sometimes you'll give someone your entire book and they will come back and tell you in great detail everything that is terrible with it. And not because it's a terrible book, but because it wasn't the book for them and they're not the critique partner for you. So if you swap
Yep.
sample chapters, you can read it and be like, this is not my genre. This is not my trope. I'm not the reader for you, without committing to reading an entire book you hate. This has
Yep.
gone for me the other way
Very
too. I have
important.
committed to read an entire book and gotten halfway through the book and been like, this is just not for me. And sometimes it's bad and sometimes it's not even that it's bad. It's just that it's not for me. But I'm like, well, I
Yep.
committed to this. And then I have to like slog through making edits. So swap a sample chapter or two.
Or you'll end up with people like me who you hand the whole book to up front as a beta reader, and then I read like the first 3 chapters and I give it back to you and I'm like, "No, you should probably fix this first," because I'm one of those beta readers who really wants to read something that you've put time into. And I don't often want to read people's first drafts. And if I feel like I'm reading a first draft, I'll give it back because I'm a writer and I have better things to do with my time. And maybe that makes me a big asshole, but
I will say
um also I've been told that, having that kind of feedback is good. So I
it
don't
does.
know.
I mean, it sometimes it's that like it's not even harsh. It's just that loving honesty like, "Hey, dude,
Yep.
um and I just lost whatever thought it was. I had a thought and it's gone. Goodbye, thought.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye." I don't remember.
Well, while you're rethinking about it, it is out of love, and I don't actually think I've ever given a book back to somebody who I actually didn't care about the story
Mhm.
for. I've only ghosted somebody once. Usually, if I have an issue, it's because I really like your story
Mhm.
and I want to see you make it awesome, so I give it back. Sometimes I'll grit my teeth through it and read the whole thing when I don't
I'll
care.
admit I am
You
bad about
know?
being a slow beta and critique partner because I tend to overcommit. Because I actually now I've hit a point where I have a number of friends who are actually very good writers and I really want to read all their stories. And then I'm like, yeah, I'll read all your
Yeah.
stories. And then like 6 of them come in at once and I'm like, ah, and then I do that thing where when you have like too much to
Yeah.
do and your brain just shuts down. And so there are times when like I'll commit to do a beta read and then by the time I get to it, they're like, "Oh, I'm already on the next draft." And I'm like, "Then let me read the next
Yeah.
draft." I'm
Yep.
sorry.
I mean, as the butthead in this podcast, this here podcast, if you think you're gonna start working on a next draft right after you give it to
Mhm.
beta readers, I would seriously suggest just not
Oh,
giving it to beta
this is not
readers.
always right after. This is sometimes when they're like, "Okay, I would like feedback within like 3
Oh,
months." And then like 3 months pass and I'm like, "I'm still not done
when you're
yet." And
still
they're like, "Well,
reviewing.
I've got everybody else's feedback. I'm gonna go." And I'm like, "Sorry."
Okay, that's fair. That's
Yeah,
fair.
that's
Like, yeah,
valid.
that's amazing.
So in that
Yeah,
situation,
that
I'm
is
just like,
valid.
let me read the next draft, please, because it was good. Like it's not usually that it's
Yeah.
bad. Actually, I don't think it with right now, I'm very selective with because I have so many friends. I am pretty selective with who I critique partner with, just because I have a finite amount of time. And so all the people that I've agreed to read are people whose work I really like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll admit I can be not always the best beta or critique partner as far as
But I,
time goes. I will
yeah.
get to it eventually.
Yeah. But I think it's important for everybody to hear both your side and my side of those feelings, because every beta reader has a thing about them where, I'm the spooky beta reader. You're the beta reader that loves stuff, but you take time, I think that going into a situation where you're looking for CPs or beta readers is really important to know that they're people and they have flaws, and they have good sides too. And it's important to remember that stuff as you're kind of swapping. Nobody's perfect, and
Mhm.
that's my
One of
TED
the
talk.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Um,
Thank you for coming to
one
my
of the other
TED
things
talk.
about the process that just occurred to me is swap sample chapters, but also find out if you are doing the reading for someone, find out what type of feedback they're looking for. And if you're asking someone to read for you, tell them what kind of feedback you're looking for. Because sometimes, especially with critique partners that I may be sending stuff that's a little bit rougher, sometimes I'm just like, I just need to know if the plot works. Like, that's it. Don't go into prose. I just want to know if like the structure is sound. Um, Whereas with sometimes with beta reads, I want like a little more detail. I want to be like, feel free to go in and line edit. Um, so it's kind of nice to know like what they expect of you and what you expect of them. So, do you have any fun stories of either A, something you missed that a critique partner pointed out, or B, a horror story about a critique that went bad? And if you don't have B, I've got samples here in a minute. So maybe A.
Oh
Maybe
my
we'll have you
gosh.
do A and I'll do B. So you do like something that someone caught in your book, and you don't have to be super specific, depending on the book, but just kind of in general, like something that you wouldn't have been able to improve or fix or catch if it hadn't been for a critique partner or beta reader.
Yeah, honestly, think I have one that's good for both of those. And I always use. I think this is more considered a beta reader thing. Um, but it was like the first time I had given my book to like anyone, and I gave it to my mother-in-law. And I always use this story because I think it's really important. And I gave it to my mother-in-law when I was about 19 or 20 years old, and I was like, "Hey, I've been working on this book for 5 or 6 years now, because it had been that long, because I was young when I was working on it." And I gave it to her, and I had talked it all up, and
We've lost DC. Yay, technical issues. I'm going to sit here and sing the technical issues song until
can you hear me
DC
now?
returns. You're
There we are.
back!
There we are.
You're
Nope.
back. Okay.
Yeah, hi. I know exactly where I left off.
Okay.
So I gave my mother-in-law this manuscript when I was 19, and then a week later my mother-in-law handed it back. And she said, uh I only read the first 5 chapters, and and I just want to tell you that I think this has a lot of potential, but right now it's bad, and you need to learn to research. And here's a list of books I think you should read. And here's the things that just couldn't sink me into the story, and this is why I didn't want to finish it. And but I think that you got this, and you should go ahead and do it again. And then I got really sad for like 2 years. But I
I
tell you
think
what,
we all have the and then I got sad for 2 years story
yeah,
when
but
it comes to
I
writing.
still, yeah, but I kept working on it, and that comment, that single comment, I think it's really important to take what your betas and your CPs say to heart, because I took that to heart, and now I research very well. I it's I was raised in a town that didn't have a lot of schooling, and I had a lot to learn. And when she told me that, it was just sort of like, okay, I trust that you're smart, and I'm gonna put my best foot forward, and I'm gonna actually try to fix this. And when I gave her the manuscript again, she loved it. And she really vouched for me when I started looking for agents and stuff. And I wrote another book after that, and that book that she hated at first is still her favorite book out of the two that I've given her so far. So these things can make a big deal, and I
Yeah. You're back.
yay. I don't know
Yeah.
if I got that
Yeah, we
enticing or
got to
not.
like the
I'm
we
glad.
I think we
Glad,
lost
I'm
like a
glad that
couple
I got it.
words, but
Yeah, I'm glad that I got that
yeah.
advice. It made me who I am.
I
So that's all I
I
got.
think there's a lot to be said as a writer for the first time you get from an honest, loving place, your book and your writing needs work feedback, and then how you handle that. And in many cases, it is that I got sad for 2 years, and that's fine because you came back and you improved and you studied, and I did the exact same thing. I was, except mine wasn't as loving. I got a really, really vicious beta read, and then I stopped writing for a while, and then I got better out of spite, which is also a good motivator because that person was very mean. And
Spite is real. Spite is
yeah,
a great thing to have on your side. I love
yeah,
spite.
it
I
did not
love
come from a
writing.
place of love in this situation. I don't think it came from like a vindictive urge. I think it just they didn't really care and they were just like, "Yeah, this sucks." And I was just like, "Ugh." And so then yeah, I did the same thing. I got sad for a while. I moped, I cried. I went through like the stages of grief, and eventually I was just like, "Okay, fuck it. Guess I'm going to get better." And I think that is kind of like all writers who, especially writers who are pursuing traditional publication or a career in writing, kind of have to hit that point at some point because you just have to like get through that to get better. You kind of need someone to tell you you need to get better. You need someone to tell you get good.
Yep. And if you don't like it, you usually know really, really early on if it's just not right for you. Like you get mad and then you start writing again, and that's generally how it goes.
Yeah. If we have a comment from chat, Spite is the best, and I agree. I think we've lost DC again. So I'm going to talk for a quick moment. I think you're back, but I'm going to
I
switch to
am.
my horror story, which actually is it's partially horror story, which was that I did do the thing that I said not to do, and I sent somebody. I was in the throes of querying and the like mental state of going, is this book even queryable? Am I a terrible writer? What's going on? Because I'd received some rejections, and I received a couple of rejections with specific notes about the voice. And in a new group, writers group that I had just joined, we were all talking about it, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if I have questions about the voice. Is it too young adult? This actually was the question, was, is the voice of this book more young adult than adult? And I was like, hey, would anybody be willing to give it a look and tell me what you think about the voice? And that's all I need. I don't need any other feedback. I just want to hear if the voice is YA. And I got one feedback that kind of gave me like, here's what I think about the voice, and just a couple other like big things I noticed. And then I got one 3-page letter that eviscerated everything about my book. Um, and are you seeing the screen?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to make sure that Moxie got told that I saw their comments. I don't have Twitch yet, so I can't respond. I keep forgetting to
Oh, I
download.
forget that you aren't on here.
Anyway, I'm an idiot. I'll
Yeah.
figure it out. I'm
You can
gonna have
also
it.
just respond verbally too. You can just be like, "Yes, I see that."
Yes, I see
Um,
you.
but yes, anyways, so I got back this feedback that was terrible and I had like a whole crisis. But then I also that is the exact same draft and the exact same manuscript that I sent out to several other beta readers before I queried. And also, it is the manuscript that got me an agent. This person told me that this book should not be queried, and then I got an agent. Oh, I think I lost DC. Like, I really lost DC. So we're going to take a second. Do, do, do. We're going to sing the logging back into Skype song because for some reason my Skype quit. And DC is gone. Goodbye, DC. And we're all better now. See how smooth that
Yay.
was? Okay, anyways, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, this is the manuscript that this person said should not be queried. And then it got me my agent. And that is the manuscript that I'm currently revising for my agent, who had some very good feedback, but it is a big edit. Um, but what I'm going to do is show you the importance of getting multiple feedbacks and multiple critique partners, because this here is what happens when you send the same manuscript to two different people. Critique A, we're going to read for the people who are not able to view the screen, says, really, the book I just read was not about character A and character B. It was about something. It was about temple gossip and people acting like high schoolers. It wasn't about the world. It wasn't about even about the romance. It was a book about gossip. The tension wasn't there even near the end. Second critique says, I genuinely didn't want to put it down. The world was so interesting and fun to be in. The character dynamics were so juicy. And in general, you have a way of writing atmosphere that doesn't let me go. I like so much of the detail with the temple and how everything worked. It was really well thought out. So here's the critique. So you have the first person saying the book's about gossip, it doesn't have any attention, and the second person saying I couldn't even put it down, the world was interesting. And they even mention I like the detail with the temple, whereas the first person's like the temple's just full of gossip. So with the same two people, we have another critique where it is person A says the book is slow, very little happens in the first half, and then some things happen in the second half, but they don't feel earned because it's slow and it drags. Whereas the other person says, I also thought the pacing was great, especially as soon as character C became more of an actual presence in the story and wasn't just lurking, with me side-eyeing him because I recognized the name from how much a mutual CP was raving about him. So you can have two critique partners who say literally exactly the opposite things. You can have one person say the book is slow, it lacks tension, and person B is like, the pacing is great, I loved the tension. So this is part of why it's good to get multiple betas and multiple critique partners, because then if you've got four people saying you've got a problem with pacing and one person saying it's great, then you can kind of weigh your odds and go, okay, maybe I do have a problem with pacing, or the other way around. And you can go, well, one person just didn't, it wasn't for them. So yeah, that was basically that point. That you really do want to send it to different people. You also want to like vet your people and make sure that it's the type of story for them. And eventually I realized that it just wasn't the type of story for person A. We did not do any future swaps. But yeah, you just want, like I said, you just want to get like as much feedback as you can, which leads us into where do you find that many people? So, how did you find your current critique partners, and where else would you suggest we find them?
Well, I didn't have any critique partners for a really long time. And then I had an ex who was a pretty good critique partner. He had a lot of great feedback. But when he wasn't so great, that ended. And then I was basically like, oh, what the hell do I do? And I discovered NaNoWriMo and ended up like basically joining literally anything that had to do with NaNoWriMo that I could because I was alone. And I ended up joining, I think it was Pitch,
A Rev Pit.
Rev Pit. Yeah, I joined a team for Rev Pit. It was this thing where whichever team wrote the most words won some such nonsense. So I joined that, and that's how I met Avery. And a lot of the people that I'm still friends with today.
Yeah, I met a lot of people through that same event. We were just all randomly assigned to the same team.
Mhm.
And like half the people on the team either dropped out or just didn't like connect. But then like half the people we really hit it off and we still
Yep.
read each other's stuff to this day. There's several of them. Um
Um, Yeah, and also about the NaNoWriMo stuff, like I also joined one for my city, the city of Ann Arbor, Michigan, and like there are so many people sitting right there. So if Avery ever dumped me as a friend, I'd be able to probably wouldn't be
Never
easy
gonna
to replace
happen.
you. It probably
You're
wouldn't be easy to replace you, but I could try. Yeah, just in general, I think writing I think writing just events are a good way to meet
Mhm.
people. But I will say this: don't sit around after you've met some people and super obsess over writing events because they can also be very toxic. Like I'm gonna be straight up, they can be really toxic. Find a good group of friends and then try to keep the toxins away a little bit.
That is hard.
Yeah,
I
it
will say
is.
for me, NaNoWriMo was a big one as well, which for podcast listeners later and anybody who may not know, NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month, which happens in November, and it's a thing where you try to write 30, for 30 days, you try to write 50,000 words. Or more if you're super ambitious. Sometimes I've tried. Sometimes I've succeeded, and sometimes I haven't. Uh, but through NaNoWriMo, I've met pretty much most of my CPs, with the exception of like one or two, either through online events like that RevPit event, or my local NaNoWriMo group. So if you are interested in finding other writers, that can be a good way to find them. Most regions, if you live in a region that it has any sort of population, any sort of small city, even up to a big city, I am sure you probably have a region. You can go on the NaNoWriMo website and search regions and find it. You can also, if you're looking locally, your library may have some NaNoWriMo events, depending. Or even that could be a good place to find local writers groups, is at your library, outside of NaNoWriMo, different writers associations or different critique groups, if you are lucky enough to have a local library. So, do you have any other places you would recommend?
Me? Oh my gosh. No. I mean, I have ruthlessly reached out to authors in the past, and some of them have gotten back to me, and some of them are actually my friends now. So like, I think it's okay to be ruthless sometimes, but don't annoy people. Touch base with the people you think you're jiving with. Watch their Twitter page for a while. See how you feel about their personality. Make sure they're not waving Trump flags around,
It's
and
a
drink a
tongue
little
twister
more,
after you've had a
Aaron,
couple of pumpkin spice
because you're
lattes.
drunk. Yes. Make sure screen them yourself, and then reach out if you feel like it's a good decision. And you don't have to wait for writing events. There's a big scene on Twitter with people that follow back. If you search hashtags like writer's life and like writing community and that kind of stuff, like, okay, the following back thing can get really annoying after a while,
Uh
and that
huh.
community is also very toxic. But if you're alone, if you're alone in the world and you really need to start getting used to that sort of thing, you can always do that as a practice. Just take it easy because it can get really toxic
Yeah.
really, really
For
fast.
if you must find people on Twitter, there's actually two things I would recommend more than the writers lifts, because the writers lifts really are just about like getting numbers. And it's also the way you tend to find out that you've like followed someone who's like a horrible raging bigot by accident because they didn't have anything on their profile yet. And then later they
Sure
start
is.
posting and you're just like, oh no. So
Yep.
yeah,
It's bad. It's
instead
really
of
bad.
writers lifts, I recommend, there is a hashtag called CP Match, and it's like an event that happens fairly regularly. If you search the hashtag, you'll see like a schedule of when the event is posting. I am sorry, I cannot remember which user hosts it, but you post like, here's what I write, here's what I'm looking for, and it's just a quick way to see what other people are looking for, and then you start connecting and communicating and seeing if you're a match. Also, there's one called Write Event, and I can't remember. I think it may only have one E. WRITEVENTE, I think, or Write Events. I'll put it in the show notes later. But it's various writing not contests, but like tag games. So it's like today we're doing like find this word in your manuscript and post a line, or you know, posts your villain's favorite drink at the coffee shop or whatever. But it's like a bunch of games where you kind of get to know people and their writing a little bit more than just like the numbers boosting that is Writer's Lift. That's actually how I first got into Writer Twitter. was because that right event Twitter posts like here's all the events for the day that are happening. So like One Line Wednesday or Post an Aesthetic today or whatever. And that was how I first started meeting writers was through that because you do get to see a little bit about them and a little bit about what they're writing rather than just like a follow for follow kind of thing. I will say I'm still on Twitter. I'm not as on Twitter as I used to be because it's a mess.
It's a mess.
It's a
Yep,
lot.
it's a royal mess.
Um,
And I've honestly never been the person to follow back because, you want people to love what you do
mhm.
without having to like love what they do back because you're not always going to love what your fans do, what your supporters do. And it's important to practice some boundaries for yourself.
Mhm.
Make sure you like what you're getting into. If you are the kind of follow back person, make sure you like it. Make sure that that feels good for you. Make sure you're not following too many people whose success or rejection stories make you sad, because
Yeah.
that's a really good way to get down on yourself, and you should probably just not. Don't even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are times where you'll need to curate your space differently than you do other times. Like I know when I was querying, there were times where I would have to be like, I am stepping back from Twitter because I was happy for people who are having success, but it was also detrimental to my mental health to see people posting signings and book deals and stuff there for a little while. And there's nothing wrong with curating your space and just being like, I am not here for this right now. Like, it's not my thing right now. So that's what the thing with Twitter. And I actually do like that Twitter helps you with that a little bit because while it's sometimes a little iffy, it doesn't always, it's a little glitchy sometimes, but the mute function and the block function work pretty well on Twitter most of the time. Whereas, like Facebook, I've tried to get back into Facebook and there are writers groups on there. They can be kind of a mixed bag, and I think you can find more success in smaller ones, so like local groups or very niche
Hmm.
genre groups, versus one that's just like every writer everywhere that has like 30,000 members, because then it's just you don't get that like connection with people that you do on like a smaller scale. So,
Yeah. I
I don't know what that emoji is.
don't know what's going on. Anyway,
We both just kind of pause like, what?
what's happening? Okay. Um,
Anyways, but
yes,
yeah, that's
I
so Facebook and Twitter you can use, but just use them knowing that they may or may not be the best. Oh, apparently that emoji means hey guys.
oh.
Neither of us are very
Okay.
Twitch savvy, I guess.
Hey,
Hey,
there. It just kind of looks like a small brunette woman flicking
it
me
is like a
off.
small brunette woman just kind of going, hey. I can see the bigger. Oh no, she's kind of doing like this number, like
Oh, I see.
waving.
Like waving. All
It
right.
does kind of in the tiny, tiny chat window look a little bit like she's flipping us off now that I'm
Hey,
looking.
man, fuck you too. Oh.
Anyways, what was I talking about? Oh, okay. One other place I wanted to mention before we get off of like where to find people is there is a forum that they were down for a while, but they're back up now. It's slightly beta-y right now while they kind of work out the glitches of their new software, but it's called Absolute Write, like Absolute WRITE. If you Google that, you'll find the link to the forums. It's just a big writers forum. It's once again a group that has a lot of people, but because it's a forum, everything's broken down into like, sub forums, and it's a lot easier to navigate than like a Facebook group. They do have a section for sharing your work with other people, critiquing other people's work. You have to hit a certain post limit before you can post your own work for critique, but you can start critiquing as soon as you sign up. And that can actually be a good way to get a feel for what other people write and start communicating with people in kind of like a no commitment way to just kind of start commenting. And then if you start noticing that someone's posting something and you're like, I really kind of like what they're posting, then you might be able to kind of meet people there. It's also a good place to kind of practice your getting and giving critique etiquette in general, to get kind of used to what people are looking for in a critique and to also like learn to accept criticism gracefully.
Yeah. 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 Anyway,
That's okay.
moving on.
Moving on. Anyways, what I was gonna say was like start your own group. If you have a few friends, if you have like literally just like two writing friends, start a critique group and be like, please invite other people if you vet them. Because yeah, I finally hit a point where I knew enough people that a couple people kind of came to me around the same time going, hey, do you know anybody who's looking for a writer's group or who has a writer's group looking for people more specifically? And so I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna start one. And so I just invited all of my writing friends and had like 6 or 7 people sign up. And now we have a critique group that critiques submissions every month and meets for a support group every month. Um, and that kind of goes into like the web. Like once you start making writing friends, then you start meeting like their writing friends because they'll be like, okay, you're cool. I know person B, and person B I think would really dig your stuff, and I think you would dig person B stuff, and then they connect you, and so you start like building this little spider web of people. I have other people I've met
Yeah.
that way too.
Also, while I'm thinking about it, because I know I'm going to forget, if you find yourself like you're shy or you're afraid that people aren't going to want to talk to you, I suggest remembering this. Everybody loves people to want to read their stuff. There's this like pitch contests that happen on Twitter. I know the
Mm-hmm.
toxic hellhole, but if you watch pitches on Twitter and you actually try to find pitches that you like, you can reach out to those people and be like, "Hey, I'm new to the community and I really liked your pitch. Like, you know, ask for, if they have a writers group, ask, whatever you want to ask. Like, do you want to offer a trade, like a beta retrade, that kind of stuff. Like you can do that and rest assured they will want you to read their stuff because we are writers and we want people to read our stuff. Like, so you don't have to worry about that. Um, but yeah, that's a way to do it if you are desperate and you haven't figured out how to approach somebody yet, do that because that's a great conversation starter just waiting for a pitch contest. But again, I really like
Yeah,
NaNoWriMo as a way to do it. It's like a safe space.
yeah. And the thing with NaNoWriMo is like everybody's kind of in the same headspace because you're all drafting, you're all trying to write. And some people may be in a little bit different place in their writing career if they are looking for a career, but you inevitably will find people who are kind of at the same spot you are or close to it or who are looking for the same goal. You may meet other people who are fanfic writers who are doing it just to like get on AO3, get on Wattpad, socialize with people, build a community who aren't really looking for like a traditional publishing contract. You may meet people who want to be self-published authors who want to publish like multiple books a year. Um, and then you may meet people who want to query and traditionally publish. But trying to find people who kind of like want the same thing isn't necessary because I do have plenty of critique partners and friends that do otherwise. But having at least one or two people you can like drag along whatever journey you're on is very helpful.
Yep.
So I think we went through my whole list of like places to find critique partners. I did mention pitch contests and not like the ones that you mentioned, which are the ones where people like PitMad, where people post their pitch for the book, which I thought is actually a really sneaky idea I didn't think about to like troll other people's books and be like, this sounds like a good book. Please let me like critique it for you. But the like big contests for revision, like Pitch Wars, Rev Pit, Right Mentor, and there's a whole bunch of others. They're cropping up. There's more of them. I have kind of mixed feelings on those contests themselves, but a lot of times the community that springs up around them can be really supportive, and you can find other people who write the same genre who are looking for other people to critique or beta their work and are willing to critique or beta other people's work. So, like, I entered Pitch Wars one year. Like I said, I have kind of mixed feelings about Pitch Wars as a contest, but I did meet some really great people and other writers through it. So it can be a good way to meet people.
Yeah, and because I forgot to be obnoxiously funny this entire time, if all else fails, just create yourself a nice character and talk to them, and don't worry about befriending other people because people suck anyway.
I mean, not
Make sure to
entirely a
give that
lie.
character a good personality. Make sure to give them 2 or 3 flaws and 2 or 3 positive.
You want a well-rounded one.
You want a well-rounded character to listen to you, and you want him to treat you nice, him or her or them. You want them to treat you nice, and you want them to love you and be there for you. So make it work. You laugh, but I did it for a while. It's great.
It does work. I'm just kind of laughing at you. You're like, make it work.
Make it work.
This is your like sad Tim Gunn impression. Make it
Make
work.
your own. Make it work. Make your own. Make your CP partner into a book character. Write a pretty novel.
It is a very pretty novel. But yeah, so that was kind of my list of places to find them. We've kind of ranted about good CPs, bad CPs, good and bad beta readers. Any final thoughts? If anybody has any questions, please type them into the chat and we'll answer them here in a minute as we kind of go into our like last little anything we forgot to mention. Anything you want to rant about or vent about?
I can say right now, guys, I'm going to be looking for. I need one more beta reader who's an absolute stranger for me this September. So if any of you listening to this feel like you have something I would enjoy or would like to read a speculative fiction about a very sad, adorable man in a human breeding facility, you just shoot me an email and maybe we can talk because I need one more stranger. And I don't actually know where to look for one of those right now. So yeah.
I would like to add, you said very sad, adorable man. You're underplaying the sad and adorableness. If
I
you're looking for like the cinnamoniest of cinnamon rolls in this setting, that's just very interesting and unique. Just trust me, read DC's work, you'll not be disappointed.
it is a book about a man who works at a human breeding facility. It is an optimistic dystopia, and it is about a childhood trauma has caused him to see all women as actual birds. Some weird, complicated mental shit going on there. So if any of you listening out there feel like that'd be something you might want to add to your September 2021, you just shoot me a mail and maybe we can talk.
Yeah, you can email the main and its writing at Gmail email address, and we'll make sure that that gets to DC. Just be like, please let me read your book.
I
So,
think I'm okay as a writer. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe I give you trash. We just
you're,
don't know.
you're,
Maybe I give you garbage.
you're more than okay.
And then, hey, if you do that, you've at least taken your first step into trying to reach out into the writing community. I
That's true.
feel
This is
like,
like a safe place to practice your like reaching out to other writers.
yeah, I am, though I may come across as gruff sometimes, I find that I am actually quite nice and approachable and love to help.
You are. Okay. Well, we don't have, after our little sappy moment, it looks like we don't have any questions tonight. So
Good.
I'm hitting the point where I'm adding random syllables. We don't have any questions because I've had too much pumpkin rum coffee drink tonight. So that's fun. Maybe I'll go try revising.
Have a good time.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for joining in.
Yes.
We really appreciate you hanging out with us, despite our technical issues.
Yeah.
We will be sending, like I said, a strongly worded letter to the wireless to the cable
Comcast.
company, and we'll get all that worked out before next time. Oh,
Thanks,
I guess
guys.
I forgot to do our little conclusion about like where to find us.
Oh,
I've had some drinks, so let me pull my cheat sheet. So our next episode is July 25th, and it will be the first half of a 2-part episode on the word was. It was so big we needed 2 episodes for it. Part 1 is about the dreaded passive voice. We need like a dun dun dun.
dun, dun, dun. And we'll be editing again too, so we'll get
Yeah.
to hear lots of.
Oh no! We're so close to the end, and we lost DC. Computers are fun. I love computers. They're
Yeah,
great.
something funny, and the internet just put out on me like,
We're so
shit,
close. So close.
whatever.
Yes, the chat just said, I bet DC has Comcast.
Yep, I sure do.
Anyways, okay, Passive Voice. Next episode, July 25th, 7:30 p.m., the usual time. Or you can check out the audio version afterward, as usual. Find everything at anditswriting.com or anywhere you listen to podcasts as usual. I said as usual already, but the pumpkin spice is really hitting me. So we're gonna call it here. And we will see you all next time.
See you all around.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello, it's Editing Avery again. Apparently, I do not know how dates work. I mentioned in the podcast that our next podcast would be July 25th. That is incorrect because we podcast on Fridays, and that is July 23rd. So please join us on July 23rd for our discussion on passive voice. Thank you.